What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the State of the Arc podcast. My name is Mike.
My name's Kason.
And my audio sounds a million times better now because my studio is sound treated finally. I was rewatching one of the podcasts like a week or two ago. I was getting pissed about all the reverb on my end, but now it's fixed. Now it's done for. And you can actually see it in the camera now too. It's all up on the wall. Sounds great in here. Anyways,
sweet.
This one might be a little bit of a shorter podcast. The main topic today is going to be what makes a good side quest. But before we get into that, let's talk about a couple of things in the news. Number one, a few months ago, Hajime Tabata left Square Enix. By the way, that was I'm never gonna let them forget this. They announced that in a second anniversary celebration event.
Yes,
of
a
Final
celebration
Fantasy 15.
event.
That's when they announced that he left Square
And
Enix.
they freaking canceled like half their projects that they were working on.
So anyways, he left Square and he formed his own game studio. Now we have some news on what he's been working on. What the F? Zoom in. Okay, that's good enough. It says Hajime Tabata Studio JP Games announces Paralympic Sports RPG, the Pegasus Dream Tour. Let me send this to you, Kason. You might actually be into this. It's a sports RPG, but like it's a
Paralympic?
Yeah, so it's like gods.
Oh, okay. Paralympic means something different to me, I guess.
It's like these winged godlike like Olympic beings called the Pegasus Tour. JP Games.
So this is like the Monstars from Space Jam.
Yeah, dude. That's it. JP Games, the studio established for Final Fantasy 15 director Hajime Tabata, has announced the Pegasus Dream Tour, the first official video game of the International Paralympic Committee. Paralympic Committee. Wait a minute. Maybe you are right about what that means. Hold on. It is being created under the concept of taking RPG to the next level and creating an abundant future with games, and will launch worldwide in 2020 for various platforms, including smartphones.
See, here's the thing, though. So what they're saying is the sport at the Paralympics is outstanding and helps transform attitudes towards persons with disabilities, right?
Yeah, you're right.
So the paralyzed, or the Paralympics means other things, but
yeah, there's a girl in the wheelchair, and the character here, he's missing a leg.
I see that now. Now I'm seeing that. However, these look like not
disabled.
These people look very able. They seem very, very physically able. They literally you're in a wheelchair, but you have wings, so you can fly. I don't know. I don't know. Okay. Well,
I didn't even notice. I mean, it's kind of small on my screen here, but I didn't notice at first that that's like what do you call it? Like a prosthetic on the legs of the two characters on the left.
Yeah, I see that now. Yeah.
And then like the girl in the middle's in a wheelchair.
But she can fly. It's like,
well, I don't know.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
You never know in anime because sometimes people just have wings like symbolically.
That's a good point. It doesn't mean that they can necessarily fly.
These wings are transparent.
Yeah.
Maybe they're like spiritual. I don't know. Anyway, let's keep
sure.
Instead of speculating. Let's see what they say.
Yeah, well, I wonder because Paralympics isn't just about physically disabled, but also mentally disabled. So I wonder how they're going to include stuff like that as well.
It says the Pegasus Dream Tour, which marks the first title to be released by JP Games, is a completely new sports role-playing game where players participate in a virtual Paralympic Games that take place inside a fantasy metropolis known as Pegasus City. So that's why it's called Pegasus Dream Tour.
Okay, and that's why they all look like they have Pegasus wings.
Here, players awaken their special abilities or extra power with an X. Extra power.
Extra, haha, nice.
In an alternate Paralympics world, dynamically rendered in ways that only video games can achieve. That last sentence is funny. The makers are planning for the Pegasus Dream Tour to be accessible on various platforms, including smartphones. Ahead of the Tokyo 2020 Paralympics, we are eager to explore innovative ways to engage with new and younger global audiences. International Paralympics Committee President Andrew Parsons said in press release. We believe this game will help boost interest in the Paralympic Games and make it easier for people all over the world to enjoy the experience, the heated atmosphere, passion, and excitement of the event. Parsons added the sport at the Paralympics is outstanding and helps transform attitudes towards persons with disabilities like no other event. I'm really excited to see and play this game and see the outstanding abilities of para athletes or how they are represented. Hajime Tabata commented, "This is not just an ordinary video game with sports. JP Games is going to represent fully the wonders that are unique to Paralympic sports in this brand new role-playing game, a genre we excel in. With this video game, we want to contribute to the future growth of Paralympic Games, not as a sporting event, but as entertainment as well, with contents we hope will be lasting value in the future." Well, what an interesting project.
Yeah, that's not at all what I was expecting that he would be working on. He left Square Enix to do this. I do see one thing though. The budget for the Tokyo Olympics, and I've been hearing, I watch Japanese TV like all the time, and one of the consistent themes that they're always talking about is the Olympics are over budget. Like they haven't built half the stuff they need to build by next year, and they've already run out of money. They're asking the city and the government for more money, which is common, with a lot of Olympics.
Olympics almost always like freaking
they
ruin
usually
the
lose
economy
money
of the city.
Exactly.
It's only like this in recent memory. It's only like the Winter Olympics in Salt Lake City that
the Utah.
It actually boosted Utah's economy.
Yeah, which is because they just used the facilities they already had. They didn't spend millions and millions and hundreds of millions building new facilities that were only going to be used for like 2 weeks, and then what? So they built a few things, but not very much. But one of the things I was going to bring up was that the spending has gotten so out of control. I think a lot of the spending has actually gone into marketing the Olympics as well. And I believe that's where the budget for this game is coming from. And so it's entirely possible that this isn't necessarily the project that he would normally have gone into, but somebody offered a lot of money and he left Square Enix saying, "Hey, we'll go do this," because Tokyo's just bleeding money for these Olympic Games right now.
Yeah, I could see it being something that, especially with like the Cool Japan initiative, back in early 2000s, them like trying to ask video game creators to like make stuff to like get people stoked for the Olympics or Paralympics in this case, and
putting some real money into it.
Yeah. Anyways, interesting stuff. Keep an eye on that. See where it goes. And the other thing, yesterday, a trailer for Star Wars Episode 9 was released. Did you watch it?
Yes, I did watch it. I'm probably never going to watch another Star Wars movie again.
I'm done. Well, I was done already, but...
Yeah, you were done before. You were done after, I think, Rogue One. I wasn't done till Episode 8, and I was like, all right, dude, we're like, I'm done. So I didn't watch Solo, which if you told my younger self that a new Star Wars movie about Han Solo came out and I didn't care to see it, I'd have told you were insane. But that's where I'm at right now. And I'll tell you what, this Episode 9 doesn't... I mean, it looks fine. I might watch it for free streaming one night if other people want to. I'm not going to leave the room. But I'm not going out of my way to watch this movie.
Nope. Yeah, like, I was watching it, right? Because J.J. Abrams is coming back.
Yeah, he's doing that.
So, like, part of me, the last vestige of my heart that has any interest in this only exists because it was weird to me that JJ was meant to start and do the setup for arcs of a 3-part trilogy and had almost no involvement in the story of the second movie.
Yep.
And to me, it was like you saw so many things established or set up that were obviously meant to be important that he like gave as a gift to whoever would follow up, and then they just ignored that stuff and was like, nah, I'm just gonna do my own thing. Like the entire concept that we're gonna have 3 different directors who are not really working closely with each other on the story of these 3 movies are all gonna kind of handle them as if they're separate projects that are self-contained different things is asinine. Like, what are you doing?
This was bound to happen. Like this whole whoops, none of these are connected and one person can literally script the entire story is like that I could have told them that was going to happen, you know?
Yeah. So, anyways, that whole thing is messed up because they had initially a different director for the third one, and then he dropped out, I should say, and I don't know if they fired him. I don't.
They have gotten rid of like
a lot of directors,
most of the directors for these movies several times now. It's freaking. It is clearly not as well run as, say, the Marvel side of Disney.
So since JJ is back for 9, again, the last little tiny piece of me that has any interest in this is interested for 2 reasons mostly. One being, is he going to try to pay off what he set up in 7 and ignore all the developments of 8, or like how is he going to handle that? Like it's more like a cynical like interest in just like, how does Disney feel about the reaction to 8 really? I mean, all their public statements, of course, are denouncing everyone as trolls and but like, how do they really feel about it? And that's going to be determined on how scared they are that it's going to hurt them from a money standpoint, right? Where will they actually shift direction to please the fans? I'm really more interested in that than I am in any of the characters or the story or anything else that's actually happening there.
Well, you don't care about Poe and that one girl who like kissed him at the end of the episode.
Oh, Rose and
Rose. You tell me you don't care about Rose and Poe?
Well, Poe's the pilot guy.
Finn.
Finn, that's his name. Yeah.
You tell me you don't care. See, I'm just not into this anymore. You don't care about Rose and Finn? That shows how much I care.
That was I think they're all fantastic actors, by the way. I think they're all very
they're good. Yeah, on their own.
Actors.
And that was actually true. That was true of the Star Wars prequels.
Yeah.
Or even the original trilogy. Like, they're all good actors, but their best work is not the Star Wars films. And that's carrying through till these new movies, you know?
Yeah, and it's so weird because it's almost like the opposite problem. Like, the prequels had a decent underlying concept and premise in a story, but like the writing was not good and the directing was not good.
Yeah.
Here it's like they have
the writing's better. I still don't know about the directing though.
The individual dialogue is generally a lot better than the prequels, but like the overall writing is in terms of like story is where it really struggles. So the premise, the concept, like the entire like story itself is a total mess. But like the actors feel more believable when you're listening to them talk. And presentation wise, I think especially episode 7, it captured, at least for a while, the spirit of Star Wars original trilogy.
Yeah, it did, well.
So there were certain things they were on the right foot with. And then I don't know, just like the story itself, and that's the whole problem, like I was saying, is that they didn't like actually outline a 3-part story. They just had one guy do one and set up things that could possibly pay off later. And then the second guy was like, no, I don't want to pay it off. I don't want to pay off what you did. I want to do my own thing. And it's like, okay, then just make them 3 individual, independent, self-contained stories. Don't turn it into a trilogy, an ongoing story, 3-parter. That's crazy. I mean, it just literally makes no sense to do it that way. We lost Kaysen. Hopefully he'll be back here in a minute. Anyways, so the trailer for episode 9 dropped yesterday. And, you know, I was watching it, and it was like, okay, sorry. Where I left off was basically just saying that it just makes no sense that you would set up a 3-part story, but then have no plan or outline of how it's going to go, and just have the first guy set up things that could be paid off, but then have the second guy like ignore those things. It's just make them 3 individual, separate, self-contained things if you're going to do it that way, right?
Yes. Seriously.
Anyways, so I was watching this, and you know, it was fine. You got Mark Hamill's voice, so Luke's back as Force Ghost, obviously.
Yeah, and
And
he's like, no one's ever truly gone.
that's the part that's so, oh man.
And then the freaking
that was the
Emperor.
moment. That was the moment where I was like, yep. They fetched it up again.
They're going Kingdom Hearts with this whole thing, and you can't come back from that.
Did you see, I don't know if you know of Red Letter Media. Oh, crap, we lost you again. Red Letter Media published a video yesterday called No One's Ever Truly Gone. And it just went through, like, basically, like, dozens and dozens of deaths in the Star Wars movie. Like, guys going down, their ships blowing up, the Emperor being thrown down, people being cut in half by lightsabers, like, just all these people dying. And every time, no one's ever truly gone. No one's ever truly gone. Don't be sad. No one's ever truly gone. And it's just like, like, my entire problem with, like, the EU, the original EU that's all been discontinued now. I mean, some of it was great. Modern Erasmus says Kaysen's dropping more times than Snoop Dogg today. What's up? So, I don't know if you...
But okay, I'm still in, right?
Yeah, you're here. I don't know if you've heard of Red Letter Media. It's a YouTube channel.
No, I haven't.
They do, like, movie reviews. So they went through and they showed, like, dozens and dozens of deaths. Guys being blown up in ships. Or, like
in Star Wars?
Even, like, Shmi, who is, like, Anakin's mother. People getting cut in half by lightsabers. And every time it, like, pauses, no one's ever truly gone. No one's ever truly gone. Don't be sad, Anakin, because no one's ever truly gone. It just, like, goes through, like, 100 different deaths. No one's ever truly gone. No one's ever truly... And that's how it felt, like, watching. Yeah. It's just, like, so cheap. It's just, like...
Nothing means anything if no one's ever truly gone.
Death doesn't mean anything. And as soon as death doesn't mean anything anymore, like...
You've lost
there's no stakes.
To your movie.
There's no stakes anymore. Like, nothing matters. This is why, like, Dragon Ball Z becomes so dumb, because, like, characters die, you just wish them back with Dragon Balls and he's come back.
I know, exactly. That's a problem with Dragon Ball
TV
Z.
series, like, this is like a soap opera thing. The guy, like fakes his death and comes out of the casket at the wedding, and, like, everyone's like, oh my gosh, he's not dead. Like, this is why I had a problem with a lot of the EU before Disney discontinued it, like the extra Star Wars stuff, because they'd bring the Emperor back, and it's just like, dude, why? Why are you bringing back an old character? Make a new character and make that character compelling. Favorite. Instead of constantly calling back to, remember how you liked this villain? He's back! Aren't you excited now? No, I'm not. Fetch that. That's stupid.
No.
Get out of here.
If they're all back, why do we need Rey? We'll just continue Luke's story forever. Bring Han back. Bring all of the people back, and let's just keep the original crew going forever.
If the Emperor's back, then why can't Han come back? Why can't it just gets so stupid. Like, you muddy the waters for, like, the rules and, like, finality of anything.
See, and it's a cheap move that works in the short term. It will not work long term, though. Because short term, oh no, everyone, look, see, all the old characters are back now. But long term, it's like, oh crap, all the characters can totally come back at any time. This ruins everything, like everything that we're planning on doing in the future. So it's like, it's just short term thinking from Disney.
Now, I say
they want this movie to do well. They don't care about the future as much.
I say this with the caveat that I'm totally speculating on the nature upon which this character will be returning.
Who knows?
We've never seen a Sith Lord come back as a Force ghost before, so I guess that's why my assumption would not go there. Like, he's actually physically back. That's what I assume is happening.
Yeah,
because I mean, they killed the Emperor of this trilogy in the second movie. So, like,
that was a weird anticlimax kind of thing.
They need an Emperor again, but, like, actually, they don't need an Emperor again, but they feel like they need an Emperor again. So they're going to bring back the original Emperor again. It's just like, fetch, come on. You cannot be more creative than that. Like,
that actor is still around, you know. He's not as old as you would think.
Yeah, he was pretty young in the original trilogy.
He actually was. What's funny, too, is that the Emperor... So the Emperor, his character kind of, like, apparently figured out how to bring people back from the dead or something like that, or to prevent people from dying. He discovered the key to immortality, right? Isn't that what we learned in the prequels?
Part of the yeah.
That's how he kind of convinced Anakin to become bad.
Yes.
And so, like, it's not that it doesn't at all work with what George Lucas originally wrote. It's just that it's a bad idea for any story to go there. It's almost like jumping the shark. Like, it's almost like once you go there, you have sold out your story in a way that people just aren't going to really appreciate.
We got some good comments here. Hold on.
Yeah, bring back Jar Jar Binks. Wait, did he die, though? He's still alive as far as I know.
So Colin Pelusa says, no one's ever truly gone, murders young children. That was actually in the video. I mean, you're probably...
him killing the younglings?
It's like, no one's ever truly gone. It's ridiculous, but if any character is going to come back, then it should be Palpatine, considering his master. A bit uninspired, though. And then this one from Gino Imperial. So Star Wars is Final Fantasy IV? Yes, that was my one problem with Final Fantasy IV. I love the tone. I love the general story of FF4. It would probably
Everyone comes back. Oh, well, spoiler alert.
It would probably be closer to my favorite if they actually had the balls to keep dead characters dead in that game.
Yeah, especially the way some of them went. Two of them went in. One of them was very
spectacular fashion.
Yeah, but then exactly, you know what I'm talking about, Sid or whoever. Anyways, I don't know if we should be specific, but that was freaking epic. It's like, how sacrificial and brave can you possibly be? And boom, he does it. Oh, but he's still alive. So what did he sacrifice? Well, nothing. Being unconscious for 2 minutes, I guess, it was his great sacrifice. Yeah, it cheapens the whole thing.
Xeno Chat says, in before Qui-Gon Jinn revives everyone DBZ style. And then he's also said, in before Darth Vader versus Palpatine for the final battle in Episode 9. Do you know what?
Whoa.
As much of a joke as that is, I'm almost convinced that's actually what they're going to do, because it's the end of the Skywalker saga. And
right. What was it called? It's called Skywalker. What's the name, the title?
The Rise of Skywalker, I think.
The Rise of Skywalker, something like that. Yeah. Which is weird. The end of the Skywalker saga is titled The Rise of Skywalker.
And this all started with Anakin and Palpatine, right? And if they end it with Anakin and Palpatine fighting someone,
I mean, it's a bookend, sure, but the way they got there is like, are you freaking kidding me?
The thing is that I can't even dismiss that as a possibility with how like dumb some of this stuff has been. Like,
well, I know, it's seriously, anything can happen. After Episode 8, it's like anything can happen.
Oh my gosh. Paradise says it would be dope and dumb at the same time. In a certain way,
it actually would.
In a certain way, if I heard from somebody who went and saw it that happened, I would almost
actually watch it.
I would actually be keen to go see that for the sake of it being so dumb that I just have to like. That could be extremely entertaining.
You know, that was part of the appeal of Episode 2, was when Yoda, they showed it in the trailer. All of a sudden, Yoda pulls out his lightsaber, and it's like, we're going to see Yoda fight with a lightsaber? Holy crap. And then, you know, that was worth the price of admission for the time. You know, it was like, you see Yoda flipping around and doing his thing, and it's like, that was cool. I was 16 when that movie came out, I think, or 14 or something. That was cool. That was worth it for me. So the Darth Vader Palpatine, that would actually, I'd probably, for old time's sake, go back.
Especially if they got like, they probably get like Hayden Christensen to play Anakin again.
Oh my gosh, yeah. That would actually be pretty cool.
I'd go see that.
Anymore? Does he do movies still?
I think he took a hitus for a while, but he's done some smaller projects.
Christensen. Because I've heard about the whole Obi-Wan movie. It got scrapped, is my understanding. They're not doing it anymore. And Ewan McGregor was going to be the Obi-Wan again. And for some reason, they're like, I don't know exactly why. I think it's because Solo didn't do well or something like that.
Yeah, it didn't.
They've kind of scrapped a lot of their future projects.
Yeah,
I don't even know
everything on hold for now.
Thing is going on anymore. Either.
They announced recently that they don't have anything currently like in production. So like they're going to take a hiatus or a break for a little bit after this movie comes out.
Yeah.
Which tells you like how important the feedback, that huge blowback for Episode 8 really was. I mean, like that took them off guard. And the fact that the following movie didn't do well in response to that, they are they are reconsidering a lot of things. But I mean, they had the Game of Thrones producers. They were writing a trilogy that was supposed to take place like in the Old Republic. They were saying that
I'd heard,
there was going to be a trilogy by Ryan Johnson that he was going to helm. That was a new trilogy of stories. And
they got that TV show that Favreau, I think, is doing, right?
Yeah. So they had a bunch of stuff that apparently is it's not in production phase. So they're in pre-production, probably planning that stuff, but none of it's officially been announced, right? So I don't know. They may be taking a hard turn on some of the stuff that they had been planning before. So, in all honesty, I think it's a good thing. They need to slow down, because I think the fact that these movies were rushed to be done so quickly and back to back every year, a Star Wars movie, we all called it right from the start. Like, this is not going to be good. This is not going to lead us anywhere good. Making a Star Wars movie every year is not a good idea.
I know, it's just not. It's just not.
I mean, because we've already seen it in all the game franchises that became annual. Like, people got really sick of it. You should not try to saturate the world with the same thing so much. People will get tired of it. The repetition.
Yeah, it's funny because people think like as long as it makes money, just keep doing it. But there is pretty good argument for like slowing down a little bit. I think we're seeing it here.
Okay. Anyways, that's enough about Star Wars.
Yep. Oh, but Mike, EA, right?
Oh, that's right. The game.
I think we have a little bit more Star Wars to talk about because that trailer came out, and it looks. I will just say it looks interesting. It looks. Cool. I have no idea what the gameplay looks like. I have no idea what the story is actually going to be. But the idea, I think, the premise is he's like an undercover Jedi, and Order 66, or which one's the one where they're like execute Order 66 or kill all the Jedi. 60. So he's like just trying to hide the fact that he's a Jedi, but they end up finding out somehow, I guess. So he's got to fight everybody now.
And he seems like the kind of character who's got like trust issues, like don't trust anyone. Like,
exactly, trust like no one.
Don't be noticed. He's just trying to survive.
Yeah.
They didn't show any gameplay.
No idea. Especially because like the premise is, unless the whole trailer they showed us is just like the first half hour of the game, which is possible. Kind of like the Breath of the Wild trailer was just the memories and it wasn't the actual like game, which was very disappointing. But like if they just showed us the beginning, that's fine if that's what they were going for. But if that is a bigger part of the game, which would be kind of cool, it wouldn't necessarily center around just fighting the entire time. So I wonder how the gameplay would actually work for that. It's very interesting.
Yeah, Star Wars Jedi. I loved the Jedi Knight games back in the day. Those were sick.
Yeah, those are cool.
So, I mean, if you're making a Star Wars game, there's only two options for me. One, you make it where I can fly in an X-Wing and blow stuff up.
Exactly.
Two, I have to have a lightsaber. Otherwise,
you're
I
a
don't
Jedi.
care.
Yeah, lightsaber is the coolest weapon. Yeah.
About being some foot soldier dude running around shooting stuff. First person, don't care. Yeah. Do not care. I have to have a lightsaber or I have to be in an X-Wing. That's the only options for me.
That's it. I agree with that.
Let's see how much lightsabering you do in this game before I decide if I want to play it.
I mean, they showed one lightsaber at the very end of the trailer, so
also
get it eventually.
It's published by EA, and so
I know that's the big, and that's everyone's bringing that up. It's like, yeah, but it's EA, so hold your breath. Don't hold your breath. It's probably going to have its own issues.
They'll ruin it somehow. They always do.
Yeah, they'll figure out a way. It's true.
Okay. All right, guys.
All right, now we're done with Star Wars.
Time for the main topic for today, which is what makes a good side quest.
Star Wars Episode 8 makes a great side quest because it just none of it was relevant, and you can watch 7 and then watch 9, and probably you don't need to watch 8.
You want a little character back?
That was a joke.
Well, yes, yoke.
It was a yoke.
Nudge, wink, wink.
8 is so important.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Know what I mean?
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Man.
I don't know. Our humor sometimes is a little dry. Some people might
That
think
was
we're
a Monty
serious.
Python joke. Okay.
I would say that we're basically never being serious. Well, I can't say that. We're serious
Except
a lot
every
of the
now,
time.
because we're about to talk about what makes a good side quest.
Now we're about to get serious.
Please take this seriously at the very least.
Just to be safe though, as a default, just don't take anything I say seriously. And assume it's a joke first. And then if you're still mad, then we can talk.
Exactly.
I'm being dumb. Let's go. Okay, so side quests.
Yeah.
You know, I was thinking about this, and I don't think that what I'm going to kind of dive into applies only to side quests. I think that even a main story is filled with smaller mini quests that are essential for the story. Like, they're part of the story, but, like, they're still maybe asides from the main fulcrum of the plot. But you still have to do it. Like, for instance, going through, like, Barrett's backstory in his hometown of Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, the place by the Golden Saucer.
That's part of the main story. Like, you can't ignore it. But it's still
that's part of what made this so hard. Like, even just thinking about it, it's like some of these side quests are actually not really, like, they feel like side quests, but they aren't.
Right. So these principles apply to more than just creating an optional piece of content. I think they also apply to the, you know, because when you're pacing your game, you're going to have moments of reprieve or moments of aside or moments where you're doing character work and you're not necessarily doing plot work. So these apply to that as well. Also, tutorial areas, I think these principles apply to that as well, where you're going to have small missions or small quests where you're meant to go through and, like, learn parts of the game. So it's more just like mini quest principles that apply also to side quests and any kind of quest that's like a smaller thing. But just from the general sense, I'm going to be using the term side quest, but just know that it applies to more than just side quests, right? So I started off by thinking about, like, okay, like, what kind of quests do I generally think are bad? And, of course, the first thing that comes to mind are things like, fetch quests and kill quests, where go get me 5 of this item, or go kill me 7 of this type of enemy, and bring back the thing, and I'll give you a reward, whether that's experience or a weapon or access to information or whatever it is. I'll give you a reward if you go out and just do this laundry list of tasks for me, right? And I don't know, when you break it down, in most games there aren't that many different types of quests. Like, you have fetch quests as one, kill quests as one, delivery quests where someone gives you something and says, take this to this person. There's only really like a few other ones. What are some of the others that I thought of? I'm trying to remember. There's like, what do you call it? Investigative quests, where, like, they tell you, like, ooh, something's weird's happening over here. Like, we need someone to go investigate what happened there. You have, like, those. Yeah. And then there was one other, but I can't remember what it is right now. Anyways, there's not really that many. Right. Because when you're playing games, most games are centered on combat and traversal or exploration. So there's really, like, so much you can do with that. Oh, escort missions. Yes, that's exactly.
Oh, escorts. Yeah, that's it.
That's the other one. So take this person and protect them while they go to this area or whatever. So you're kind of limited with just, like, the engine or mechanics or structure of the game with how many ways you can sort of, like, give the players a task to do. So, you know, my first thought was like, well, that means that I don't think any of those things are inherently bad. Like, when you hear someone talk about, fetch quest, usually it's in a negative connotation. Yeah. But I think that you can structure fetch quests or kill quests or escort quests or any kind of quest well in a way that feels really integrated and unique, and people will love it. It's just when you structure them to be repetitive or seemingly non-relevant to what you're doing in the story or whatever it is, that it's like, well, this feels empty. It feels like busy work, right?
Yeah. And some of it also depends on how like intuitive the characters themselves are while you're escorting them.
Yeah.
Like in GoldenEye 64 with Natalia, and she just the reason that escort mission sucks is because she just walks very slowly and very stupidly into very bad situations. And she has no real good AI. So it's annoying. But one of my favorite escort missions ever was Telma in Twilight Princess. That was actually one of my favorite parts of that game is when she's riding in the little wagon and you've got to go around and kill all the stuff so that she can get to the place she needs to get to, and you kind of protect her. And I actually really liked that. I don't know if that's common for most people, but I had fun with that because it felt a little more important, and it wasn't just like she had a reason for why she was going slower, or why she couldn't defend herself very well, or why, if the thing gets lit on fire, it burns all the stuff inside of it. So you've got to go around and kill all the dudes with fire arrows. Anyways, I like they just seemed a little bit more purposeful.
So a couple of comments here. Visalia says, what category would you put the Soulsborne side quests into? They are sort of about getting the correct interactions. I don't know. They're kind of like investigative quests, but also kind of like fetch quests, because you go do something and then you come back to the guy who usually is at like the hub area, and he's like, oh, now he has a different thing he says. I don't know. That's a good question, Sally. I'm not exactly sure how it categorizes that.
Colin, yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, Colin, I was just going to read the same thing you were going to. Talking about differentiating between side quests and mini games.
Yeah, I think this is a good distinction to make.
Yeah, a lot of older games, what I would have considered a side quest kind of probably more falls under mini games.
Sure.
Kind of like Mario RPG, where you've got to Yoshi's Island and you've got to race against Boshi, and it's mostly just a mini game, but it's fun and it kind of feels like a side quest.
Well, I think that mini games and side quests both tend to serve a similar purpose, and that is in the issue of pacing a game so that you don't feel like you're doing just one thing repetitively over and over again. They break it up with something different and interesting to keep things, dynamic, unique, keep the gameplay flow a little, mix it up a bit. I think they both serve that purpose, but like, I think a great example is the Fort Condor side quest in Final Fantasy VII, in which you play the mini game of like battling against the guys coming up the hill. So you return to that area multiple times.
Yeah.
In part of the quest of saving the Condor, which the reward for that is the Phoenix materia, I think. But you play a mini game multiple times as part of that quest, right? So that would be how you would make that distinction in that case. So, anyways, yeah, I mean, we'll try to make sure that when we're talking about quests, we're talking about. I mean, this is kind of the same thing with like the Chocobo Hot and Cold in Final Fantasy IX is a mini game, but it's part of the Chocograph side quest where you're going around like digging up the treasures on the world map, right?
Yeah.
So I think most people understand the difference, but yeah, anyways. So yeah, I was thinking about it and I was like, well, side quests I think are, especially in long story-driven RPGs with big worlds, they're really important in that, I mean, you could just have the player go from point A to point B through an entire game linearly and tell a good story. But you do miss out on an opportunity, I think, to let players explore a world. And when we come to video games, it's like, this is what makes it unique from watching a movie, right? If the game is just, you're here and now you walk to here and then you see the scene, and then you walk to here and see the scene, you walk here and fight the boss and then see the scene, it's really not structurally any different than seeing a movie or a TV show.
Yeah.
It's serialized. There's no participation, no choice in terms of what order you do things in or how you go about doing it. And so video games, I think, are uniquely able to allow the player to feel like they're part of a world. And I think that for RPGs specifically, since that's mostly what we talk about on the channel, side quests open up the opportunity for you to find and explore and discover a world that is no longer just now a background setting, like just a layer in the background of a painting, right? You have like your foreground elements and all the cool stuff you look at, and it's just like the blue sky background. The world is no longer that, but it feels like it is a living entity. There are things happening here outside of your view if you went that way. And you can go there and discover them. And the illusion of this world being real, it gives you that extra layer of investment in it. And so side quests to me, from the storytelling perspective, should serve that purpose. That's what I would consider a really good side quest, is if you don't have to do it in order for you to enjoy the game's story, but when you do, it adds context to the game story in a way where you get like more invested in it than you would have been before. Now, the other purpose of side quests, I think, is to help the designers use it as a utility to make sure that the players are at the right level when they go to the next area, or to make sure that you're practicing certain mechanics and really like learning all like the nitty gritty of the combat system, or to give you rewards, optional rewards. And I think when designers use side quests with only that utility in mind, that's when you start getting side quests that feel empty or hollow or like busy work, because they'll say, okay, player reaches this zone or this area typically at level 15. We want them to enter the next zone at level 25. So we need to fill this zone with enough things to make sure that they gain 10 levels before they are encouraged to leave the zone. So let's put 15, 20, 30 little exclamation marks on top of characters in the town there that say, go kill me 5 monsters and come back. And if they do a fair amount of those quests, they're going to be level 25. Things will be able to move forward smoothly. That, to me, is bad game design. Because you're just dictating almost arbitrarily that they need to be at this level in order to go to the next zone. Like, why? Why fill that area with busy work to make me a level 25 so that I can go to the next zone, instead of just making the next zone lower level requirement or whatever? Now, here's the reason. Here's the actual reason why. The actual reason why they do this is because it's a back-of-the-box feature they can list as a reason to buy the game. Right. So you can say, I have 70 hours worth of content in this game. And people have become so obsessed with the number of hours of content in a game.
Yeah, I've been noticing that.
That they don't care whether that content is actually engaging or interesting or good. They just want to be able to say, there's over 50 hours of content. And you look at the back of the box and go, oh, that's going to make my purchase worth the money.
But this other game has 60 hours of content. So you might want to buy that one instead.
So what ends up happening is that games become inflated with hollow, busy work that is totally irrelevant and is only meant to help you, like I said, either get to the right level or practice a certain mechanic or whatever it is. But they weren't designed with like the game's world or setting or story in mind. So examples of this, someone up here said something about Ubisoft games. Oh, Doom Guy says, Mike is describing every Ubisoft open world game in the last 5 years. Yeah, that's what Assassin's Creed became. Assassin's Creed is a horrible, horrible example of this, where you have like, even the very first Assassin's Creed, right, before they made it into an annual thing, the entire game revolved around like 4-ish or 5-ish types of quests. You can go like tail a guy and like listen in on his conversation. You can go like I think there was pickpocketing, like you go like follow a guy and then like pickpocket the information from him. And then there was like there's like these mini assassinations where you like go like take the guy, you chase him and take him down, and then he gives you information, you kill him. And anyways, and then there's somewhere you like sit on a bench and just like listen, or you like blend into the environment and you have to like walk around with the monk dudes and like listen to gather information. So
I remember that. I remember that.
Now I know what to do to kill the main guy as part of the story, right? And there would be like 5 of these types of things you could do, but you only had to like fulfill 3 of them to know guy will be at this location at this time, and at this vantage point I'll have the best opportunity to take him out.
Okay.
That they repeated that exact same structure like 5 times in the game for the different cities you go to, and it's just like it's so repetitive, and you just do the same thing over and over again, and it's just like really, really lame, right? And they tried to diversify it, but Assassin's Creed has always kind of had that problem at its core, where you still do these tailing missions where you're just walking behind guys, but not too close, or else they'll turn around and like see you. And so you gotta blend in. You gotta just like you spend like 20 minutes following this guy to like hear information, so that then you can go kill him and like do the thing you're supposed to. Anyway,
yeah.
So Assassin's Creed has always had a problem with that as part of like its core identity, right? Whereas games that are shorter, I think that Miss Monet brought something up here. Journey is a wonderful game. I think it's only a couple hours long. That's true. And I think that that's fine. Like if you're going to, because Journey is very much a go from A to B game. They have some secrets, like you can discover secrets that give you a little bit more like ambiguous sort of backstory on what's going on, and some. But I mean, it doesn't. It's very much like a go from point A to point B game. It's more like a movie than it is a game.
In which case, it should probably cost about what a movie costs.
Right, and
which it does. Yeah, it's not a $60 game.
But if we're talking about like large story-driven open world RPGs where you have lots of choice, right? I still think it's okay to make a game 15, 20 hours long. If that's like, if that means you're not going to inflate it with 40 hours of superfluous nonsense. Xenoblade Chronicles, as much as I love it, is that. It's like half of the game is running and doing fetch quests, and the other half of the game is fighting and seeing a cool story. Like there is a gigantic portion of that game which is, you can ignore them, you don't have to do them. And so I make that caveat, but like it would have been nice if the quest structure in Xenoblade 1 was a little bit more like, say, well, this game came out later, so I'm not trying to make comparisons or say this is better than that. I'm not trying to do that, right? I'm just trying to say if the idea behind how the quests were written was more like the way it's done in The Witcher 3. The Witcher 3's side quests are probably the best I've ever seen in an RPG.
Yeah.
Let me give you an example from the early game. So you're kind of in the first area, and you come across a character that says something about a well that, you know, they used to draw from, but like there's like a haunting or like a ghost, a specter up there, so no one can go and use the water, and there's this horrible thing that happened, and they basically explain essentially like a little side story event that happened in this little village. And you go there, and through this side quest, you learn a couple of things that are really important for the game. So it's a utility quest in a lot of ways, where you learn how to, because you have to wait to a certain time at night. It's like at the stroke of midnight, the specter will come out, right? So you have to learn how to go in the menu and tell it, okay, I'm going to wait until this time. And he sort of like sits there and meditates until the time, right? Also, you have to do some investigating in order to find out that you need to use a special type of oil on the blade in order to damage it, or else you can't damage it. So you learn about alchemy in the midst of this quest. So it teaches you about, you know, time-sensitive quests, which are a big part of the game, waiting to the right time. And it also teaches you about doing alchemy for yourself to buff yourself, but also applying oils to the blade to do better damage to enemies or to damage them at all, which is also a big part of like monster hunts in the game, which is a whole part of the setting of the game. Geralt is a witcher. He's a monster hunter. So you're learning about the character and who he is and his role in this world. And then it tells a pretty like heartbreaking little story about a married couple who, during the course of this larger political conflict war that's going on, the pillaging and the suffering that's happening, like the terrible things that happen to some of these people, and that you have to dive into the well and recover some of her items and take them back and bring resolution to her life. And so they wrote a little kind of clever side story that is engaging and interesting. They taught you utility about how the game works and taught you more about the character, all in this little side quest. That's how you make a good side quest. Like that's it. You engage the player in world building that is interesting. You teach them how to do a couple things that they'll need to know, but it's optional. They don't have to do it. And if they do it, they'll get like a more rich experience, a more rich idea and understanding of the world they're in. But you don't have to, right? And there's lots of quests like that you can go learn this, gameplay mechanic from something else. But it's just all these options are open for you. You feel like you're having participation and choice. And The Witcher 3 is filled with quests like this. It's amazingly well done. It's like every quest feels handcrafted versus like, okay, we made a system like the Ubisoft Assassin's Creed games. Here's a system we created about tailing enemies and like learning information. Now let's repeat that same system we made up 5 times, and then let's make another system and repeat that one 10 times. And let's make another system, repeat that one 12 times. So then like, it just feels really arduous to do. It's just like, again. Versus The Witcher, where you do similar things, like you're tracking people and you go into your little Witcher mode and you follow the tracks. Like that's part of a lot of these quests, but the quests are not, they don't feel the same because they're actually telling these really cool, unique little stories. Each one of them is. That in turn feels a lot like a chapter out of The Last Wish or something, right? Like The Witcher, a lot of the Witcher novels that the video games are based on are just collections of short stories. They're not like a sort of like a larger plot. Some of them, he went in and sort of tied them together with these chapters in between. But originally they were just, here's a little short story for the character, and then he goes on a different adventure, and here's another short one. And the side quests of The Witcher feel like that. They feel like this could be a chapter in The Last Wish. And to me, that was really cool.
That's cool. So we've got
go ahead.
a bunch more comments from a lot of people.
Let's see what they say.
Paradise saying Chrono Trigger did side quests the best. Almost all of them had a story running parallel to the main story and provided tremendous depth to the characters while tying it to the story of Lavos.
Yes. The Chrono Trigger is probably the best example I can think of in the realm of JRPGs specifically.
Sure, yeah.
Where the quests all felt totally like unified with the world and setting in the story, and where none of it felt like busy work. And the game is, you can beat it in less than 20 hours if you know what you're doing. Like, nothing is inflated. None of it feels like it's there to extend playtime. Everything that's in there feels like it belongs, that it's there for a reason.
Yeah, totally. Dude McGuy says in the Trails games, they're kind of small side quests, but they're all tied into the story because the characters are bracers, basically friendly mercenaries that do everything from killing large monsters to helping someone find their wallet. So having a story built around people who their job is to do various odd jobs and small things.
Busy work is their job.
Yeah, exactly. That is literally what they do. And so that kind of reminds me a little bit of Final Fantasy 12 and how you've got the whole... what do they call it? The system where you fight monsters and you get prestige and you're... Dang it. What is it called?
Monster Hunter, or are you talking about...
Final Fantasy 12.
Oh, Final Fantasy 12. Oh, I know what you're talking about.
What's it called? Where you go around...
The guild. You have the guild. And
yeah,
you're like
guild
ranking
stuff
up in the guild. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's like... None of that's necessary. I don't. Most of it, I think, isn't necessary. But it's a fun little thing where you can go around and meet some new people, and that
Sure.
is sort of your like job-ish, I guess, where you can, like, if you need some money, well, go to the guild and see if you can get some by doing some of this stuff instead of just finding it randomly in the wild, right? So
Miss
having it
Monet
be
has,
part of their job is interesting.
yeah, Miss Monet has a good comment here. What about when the main game is 15 to 20 hours, but you can buy bonus DLC to keep the story going? Didn't The Witcher 3 do this? So what you're talking about is actually called an expansion. And expansions are great because, one, typically they were not in development during the game's initial span of development time. So they
Right.
made their main game and released it. Then, because the game was successful, they continued to add a shorter, essentially new game on top of it.
Right.
The Witcher 3 did this. So The Witcher 3's main story and main game is, I think, on average, probably between 50 and 70 hours long. And then they released two, essentially, it's not a sequel. I'm not saying it's a sequel, but it is in a way sequel-esque because they are not necessarily tied into the main game storyline. They're like new stories, but they're just shorter and really, but they're self-contained. So Heart of Stone is like a 10-hour new story. And Blood and Wine is like a 20-ish hour new story that give you like more room to expand, introduce new characters, have a totally new plot line, but they're just in a shorter format than like the main bulk of the main game, right? So when they do that, that's always really awesome. It means you just get more of an awesome game, and they worked on it and they gave it as a bonus because the game sold well and it was successful, and like, yeah, give the people some more because they finished the main game. It's like, oh man, as a kid and I beat Ocarina of Time, I'd have to play Ocarina of Time again. But if they had expansions to Ocarina of Time,
Right.
I would have been stoked. Like, okay, cool. Like I can play essentially the same game mechanically and in the same world, same hubs or same like world map, but just like expand it a little bit, add a new area, add a new this sort of thing. Expansions seem fun. Why don't they do this more often? They usually do it with MMOs. MMOs get lots of expansions because they try to keep their players going for years and years and years. And you still will see expansions, but typically you see smaller DLC than what would be considered like a full-on expansion. Any other comments that you saw?
Yeah, I've been seeing a bunch. But CapDoc says, I prefer when side quests are fully fleshed out scenarios rather than going to a job board. In part talking about
Yes.
stuff like Final Fantasy 12, or random NPC and just being told to kill X amount of things. There's like a cost benefit deal that video games
Totally.
have. I mean, it costs a lot of money to create the game and the content of the game. And when you have the main storyline of a game that's maybe, I don't know, 10 hours or so of the actual, like main content that you have to do, and then you're filling it with all of this other stuff, how much time and effort and money are you going to put into the side quest versus the main story? And my understanding of The Witcher, especially the way you describe it, Mike, I haven't played it, but is that the way you described it being that it's like a short story almost. It's like it's something that could have gone in the book The Last Wish or something like that.
Yeah.
Is that takes a lot of thought and a lot of effort to
Oh, yeah.
craft those types of experiences. And sometimes I would rather have that in a game that I'm playing. But the reason why games don't always do that is because it costs a lot of money. You need you need your writer, whoever you're hiring as the writer, to you just need to retain them longer, I guess, as they come up with all of the different story reasons for the quests that you decide would be a fun thing for the players to do. And
Sure.
that just can take a lot of time. It can really hold up development sometimes. And if you're explaining it to your investors, producers, or executives and saying, oh, we're creating side quests, they're going to be like, shut up, put the game on the market right now. It's done, you know? So there's actually, there's some business operation stuff going on there too.
Yeah, there's two things that came to my mind. They're kind of devil's advocate of each other, right? So on the one hand, what you're saying is true. I'm glad you brought it up. It's an important element to talk about.
Yeah.
Like, in order to structure your quests like that, like I said, it feels like it's been manually crafted versus part of like a system that just like spit out a copied version of the same thing, mechanically done.
Right. Just changed a few keywords and then
it's just so. I mean, and of course, I mean, every developer would probably agree with you. That's how we wish all the side quests could be. But like you're saying, there is a huge cost and time benefit / like problem with trying to make them all that way. So, you know, it's like we only have this much time, so this many of the quests will be done that way, and then we'll have all these other quests that are done more this way. But again, and this is one side of the argument, that don't have them, right? Like, that doesn't make the game more valuable to have 40 hours of busy work.
Of filler.
Just cut the busy work out.
True,
And this notion or this idea that if the game isn't a certain length, then you can't use that as like a selling point. And I mean, obviously that exists. Like, people actually respond to, ooh, it's 50 hours long, I'm going to get more value out of my game.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that a lot of people do get really fatigued with all that stuff. So it's like, well, then just don't include it. But then on the flip side, the counterpoint or the devil's advocate to that, it's side quest. It's side quest. It's side content. You don't have to do it.
Exactly. It's optional.
The only problem is when games in recent times, and this is the reason I didn't buy Shadows of War, despite the fact that I love Shadows of Mordor, is that they do sort of like limit you in terms of you're just not high enough level. You don't have the resources to beat the next story mission. And so you have to grind like crazy and do a lot of the really boring side stuff in order to get to the right level. Or microtransaction, bam, you have the thing you need to move on. That's when it becomes a freaking huge problem. That's when it's like, that's bullcrap. But for a lot of games, I remember the very first time that I noticed this, like the first time that I wasn't just playing a game and enjoying it as a kid for pure entertainment, but that I was actually like analyzing it from the perspective of like, oh, they designed this, like thinking about why the developers did what they did, was when I was playing Spider-Man 2 on the GameCube, which is, I loved that game. It was like the first like truly open world game I'd ever played, and the web slinging in it was freaking sick, and the combat was really fun. It was like the first Spider-Man game that was any good, in my opinion. I know that there's one on the PlayStation that's considered like a great game. I'm aware of that, so don't come at me. I just didn't play that one. I had an N64, okay? So, anyways, it was the first one I had played that I thought was really good. But I started noticing that, like, they had all these waypoints around the city where, like, they had, like, 20 guys across the city, like, every day who are window washers that are falling. Like, oh, no, he's going to fall! And you have to go save him.
Well, this kind of reminds me a little bit of things like Grand Theft Auto or the game that we played, True Crime Streets of LA.
Yeah.
Because we had Nintendo, where it's like the cops are just like, there's a bank robbery happening, and you can choose to go, help or not, I guess. But it's always the same things happening every time. Oh, we have a vehicle chase happening. Oh, right, sweet. And in some ways that is being an undercover police officer. You are kind of doing the same things every day, I guess.
Sure.
But in the game context, it was just like it was just like a formula where it was like, all right, now this other person is robbing this other bank at this other part of town. Now go save them. Okay, now this other dude stole another car and go chase them. And it ends up being the same thing over and over. And it's fun to do for a while. Eventually it loses its impact.
Capdoc says, my balloon. So there's these kids all across New York City that are losing their balloons. It's an epidemic of kids losing balloons across New York City.
And
Spider-Man, only Spider-Man can get those balloons back. You know what I mean? It just feels silly when you repeat it that much. And I remember that being the first time where I was sitting playing a game and I sort of became analytical, like, holy crap, like, why are they repeating the same thing over and over again? They probably wanted to extend playtime. They wanted it to be like, oh, our game is this many hours long, but they just filled it with save my balloon quests and save the guy who's falling, or the old lady's getting her purse stolen, or like they're all the same, you know, and it breaks immersion because it's not, and that doesn't mean that it's a bad game. I still think Spider-Man 2, that era's Spider-Man 2 game was pretty good. I had a lot of fun with it, but the side quests are definitely not like the best or strongest aspect of the game. Miss Monay says, having too many hours in a game can sometimes make the game feel a bit pointless and fatiguing. Like Star Wars would be cool again if they would if they gave a several-year hiatus, which is what they are doing now. I don't know if you heard that part. Similarly, I think a game might be exciting again if it was shorter and you create expansions to keep it going later down the road. Yeah, I think that the corporate side of things, when you have a hit, like a really big hit, it sells really well. The tendency there is, let's saturate the world with this property as long as we can and make absolute just buttloads of money, as much as possible, maximize profits to the fullest possible extent. And as soon as people are sick of it, kill it forever and then find the next thing. And for all of us who are artistically and like emotionally invested in the stories and characters, that's heresy. That's horrible. You're killing the thing that we love for money. But from a business side of things, which is what funds the whole thing to begin with, it's like our job is to make as much money as possible, and that's the best way to make the most money possible. And who cares?
They have a duty to the executives. They have a duty to their employees. They have a duty to their shareholders. Like I've never been in a position where I've like owned a company and then I've been worried about making payroll, about being able to pay all the people that I employ. Right. And that's part of why they're just like, I know a lot of it is greed and all this stuff, but at the same time, they've got other things they need to worry about. And a lot of it is money related. And they are real worries because people lose their jobs all the time and studios close all the time for this kind of stuff. And whatever can get them money is, I mean, that's their job. That's what the executives do.
Yep.
It's the reason we have any of this stuff.
But yeah, I mean, it sucks to see something you love become part of a corporate machine that just runs it into the ground like that. It really sucks.
It does.
I mean, that's the pain I've been dealing with for 10 years with Final Fantasy, you know?
With Square Enix, yep.
And I've held on for so long, and like only kind of recently got to the point where I've just kind of stopped caring about it, you know? But it's not quite the same because Final Fantasy games don't come out annually. But Assassin's Creed, I used to really like Assassin's Creed. I played Assassin's Creed 1. You know, it had problems, but I liked the concept so much that I played the second one. I liked that, and I liked Brotherhood a lot. That was my favorite one, and I liked how they finished off Ezio's story in Revelation. Like, I was really into it. And then, you know, Assassin's Creed 3 burned me a little bit. And then Black Flag brought it back up, and I was way into it again. And then just every single freaking year, Assassin's Creed is just like, I've already gone to every, because it is repetitious. It's like the game is go to a new area, find the Eagle High Point, and unlock the map, and then unlock all the quests in that map. Go do all the quests. Go to the next zone. Go to the Eagle Point. Unlock the map. Go do all the quests in there. I was like, I've done this. I've done this like 5 times. I platinumed Assassin's Creed 2, Brotherhood, and Revelation. So I got a platinum trophy, meaning I did everything in the game on those 3. And by the time I got to Black Flag, and I was starting to do that again, where I was going through like the grind of just doing everything, I was like, dude, how many times am I going to waste my time doing the same thing? This is crazy. I have to stop. So I haven't played Assassin's Creed since Black Flag. And that was probably even one game too much, even though it is good, though. I do think Black Flag's legitimately a good game. Yeah. People should play it. It's great. Just don't play all of them. Just play one of them. If you're going to pick one, Black Flag's a pretty good one to pick.
Bieberman says Breath of the Wild has some awesome side quests. I agree with that, but Breath of the Wild's almost in a different category. The whole game is nothing but side quests. You don't have to do anything. They made this massive world, and it's literally just side quests. There isn't much of a main story. You can go fight the final boss in the first 30 minutes of the game if you know what you're doing. Like the whole game is side quests. So I would almost categorize it differently, but technically they are all side quests. And when you put that much time, as much time, we talked before about the cost benefit thing. Well, this Nintendo team put basically all of their money into side quests. And yeah, it turned out that there were some pretty fun ones, right? Really good ones. But it's basically what the whole game is. So I don't even know if I could fairly, categorize those as side quests.
Let's see. Dude McGuy says the side quests in Final Fantasy 15 suffer from this as well. Epidemic of broken down cars on the road, and only Prince Noctis and his bros can help them. Yeah, we've talked about that in the past.
Which is hilarious because they couldn't fix their own car. Remember, the game starts out with them pushing the car into Cindy's shop so that she could fix it. And it's like, dudes, and then we got to go. Anyways, it's really fun.
I hate the side quests of FF15 for the most part. And again, it's because it's done to add content without thought behind, does this content actually fit in the world we're talking about?
Yeah.
Because, we told people to imagine this. Say your car's broken down and Donald Trump Jr. comes by and you're like, hey, can you go down and get me the parts I need to fix my car? You're asking somebody of high. Well, actually, by that time, Noctis was essentially the king. He wasn't even the prince.
That's true. His dad wasn't even around.
So it'd be the same as asking the president of the United States to fix your car for you. What the frick are you doing? Why?
But here's the thing. They might actually do it for you if there are cameras around. Right? So they might actually be like, oh, sure. Oh, okay, I'll go. I'll help you out. Or they'll send somebody. Or they'll just give you money on the spot or whatever. Oh, that's such a good person.
Yep. And then in addition to that, the other type of quest I really hated from 15 was there was this area, I think it was in kind of the main town, I forget the name of the town, where they have that nuclear reactor or whatever it is that they're using for power. It's not a nuclear reactor, but they have to wear suits when they go inside of it.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's in that town, and there's just a market, a food market, and you go there and the guy's like, hey, can you go to this farm on the other side of the freaking continent and bring me ingredients to sell?
Yeah, that's
bring me vegetables. It's this is your effing job. This is your livelihood. Your business is going to be is going to live or die based on asking your king to go grab vegetables for you.
It's even beyond
nobody's competent in the whole world to take care of their own problems.
But it's what happens next time you run out of this stuff? Are you going to continue asking the king for it, or are you going to learn how to do this yourself?
So it's ask a man for a fish instead of learning how to fish.
Teaching him how to fish, exactly.
Asking the king for a fish.
I know. It's a whole other thing.
But what that does is it makes the world a kind of the real silly extreme of being a power fantasy. Nothing operates in the world unless the player is directly involved. Nobody can take care of themselves. Nobody can do anything. You have to do everything. And that makes the world feel cheap. It makes the world feel like it isn't believable or real. And so I don't like side quests when I would rather not have them at all and have the game be 15 hours than have a 50-hour game filled with crap like that.
Yeah.
So,
but you don't have to do it.
You don't have to do it. That's true, and that is the counterpoint. You do not have to do it.
That's the thing. It's
So I can't really argue.
If there's a game
just
where,
don't do it.
Because here's the funny thing: we got Breath of the Wild, right? Basically nothing but side quests. You don't have to do it. But when you talk to somebody who's played that game, they did almost all of them, right? Mm-hmm. And you can talk about certain places and certain points, and the people who play, anybody who played that game will likely come back and say, yes, I did that as well, right? Mm-hmm. So creating the feeling of being compelled to do a side quest as opposed to forcing people to have to do something they don't want to do, or making it not compelling enough to where they miss all this stuff because they don't really want to waste their time doing it. Breath of the Wild did a great job of compelling you to want to do all of the side quests. And that's one of the things that games, I think, have a really hard time doing is, yeah, you can either have all the content, but it kind of sucks, or you can have killer content, but no, the story or the world itself isn't compelling enough for people to want to explore it all the time. But there's a sweet spot right there, and very few games really actually hit that.
So a couple things from the comments, and then I had a couple thoughts. Hopefully I don't forget them. Dude McGuy says, this happens a lot, Mike. The trophies, extrinsic rewards, cause people to play games much more than they would otherwise. That's true, too. They use trophies or achievements now as a means to extend playtime as well.
Yeah, and that's almost as bad as having random side quests.
And it's a psychological thing. Like, it ignites the reward and pleasure center of the brain
systems,
to do that, right? It's like, ooh, I accomplished something.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you look on the outside, you're sitting on a couch for 50 hours. But it ignites that part. It fires the neurons in that part of the brain, and it's rewarding to people. So it's definitely a psychological or almost in a way an addicting kind of feeling. Rob says, set a man on fire, he'll be warm for a night. Set a man a fire. Create a fire for a man. He'll be warm for the night. Set a man on fire, he'll be warm for the rest of his life.
Oh, that is so smart.
It's a good one.
That is genius.
It's an oldie but a goodie. Good one. Cap Doc says, these are some unexpected examples, but I found it interesting how much of an effect the direction of side content was handled in the old Digimon World games for PS1, or the old Digimon World game for PS1. From way back in the day versus one of the more modern iterations. That game had you going around recruiting more monsters to inhabit your town, and with every new recruit, they'd impart new information and lore that provided some world building or served as a piece of the main narrative. In the modern iteration, you have the exact same side content recruits, but they provide no flavor, no world building, and have little ties to the main story. Everything important to the overarching narrative is delivered through cutscenes, despite having you do the exact same business gameplay-wise. The difference in the presentation and rewards made a noticeably different impact on the total experience. That's a great example, actually.
That was a good comment. That was very well thought about.
Wisdom of Terry Pratchett. Oh, that's a Terry Pratchett quote. That's why I've seen that before.
Oh, there you go. Nice.
So, no, what I was going to say, though, was just like the quest starter, like the event that begins the quest itself, I think can have a huge impact on whether the player is excited about it, right? Let's say, for instance,
the motivation,
you walk into town and you just see a bunch of anonymous people with exclamation points on their heads. It's like, okay, that guy has a quest for me. And they'll tell you how helpless they are. And I can't do anything by myself. Help me. I'm useless. And it's like, okay, fine. I'll go freaking find your ring hidden somewhere in the city so that they can teach me about jumping and exploring rooftops or whatever, right? Again, the entire structure of the entire side quest exists to teach you how to do parkour or whatever and how to explore vertically in a city. Or, oh no, this monster is inside of my farm and I can't whatever. And then they teach you how to do the whole process for hunts. The game's hunt system. So you do a tutorial for it. Okay. You can do that, or you can be playing the game not knowing that you triggered something to start a quest. And then all of a sudden you wake up and you're freaking in a different area from where you went to sleep. And the Dark Brotherhood are standing above you. And they're there's this, we need you to do something for us. That's whoa, wait a second. You didn't even know you triggered a side quest, but you did. And then it waits. The game waits for you to manually go to sleep. You may never go to sleep in the whole game. You may stay awake forever. But I think sleeping is at least one way you pass time in the game. I think you can also just wait. But in any case, when you go to sleep, you wake up and you're in a different area and it's this whole thing opens up. That's way more of a hook. It's way more engaging. It's ooh, what's going to happen here? And there's a whole story, again, tied to it, So that's way, way more engaging as a side quest. Have 2 or 3 or 5 of those and none of the others, and I'll be happy to play your game for 15 hours, 20 hours.
Yeah.
But like we said, I mean, it's not necessarily that easy to just just do it this way, because again, they're a business, they're trying to make money, and there is something to the fact that a player will be hesitant to buy a game for $60 if it says it's only got 15 hours of gameplay on the back.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
even fetch quests can be fun, and that's something that Aaron Dite brings up here, saying my favorite Breath of the Wild side quest is ultimately a fetch quest, but it resulted in a whole town being built. The reward for that quest was high enough that despite it being nothing but a fetch quest, you were able to see something pretty substantial come of it, as opposed to most fetch quests, which is you get $100 or 100 gold or whatever, and job, you did the fetch quest. Like, sweet, that wasn't very fun. But the reward in the game for Breath of the Wild, at least for that quest, is pretty big.
Miss Monet, one more thing here, and I think we'll move on. Miss Monet says, I always feel like I have to do side quests because, one, otherwise I didn't fully take advantage of the game. See, that's the part that makes me lean toward the other side of the argument, where don't include them at all, because there is something where you feel compelled to do it.
Kind of obligated to do it.
Even though you're not.
You're like, well, I may as well do it anyways.
And it's and yeah, you can point at me and say, well, just don't. Just like, if you don't like it, then don't do it. Yes, but there is still something.
Yeah.
It's still part of the game, and it's not exempt from criticism, right? It could still be made better. Number 2, she says, if I don't do the side quests now, that I'm going to have to start a whole game over in order to experience them. So missable side quests, freaking annoying. I hate that. Where if you don't do it right now, there's going to be an event that happens in the game that prevents you from coming back and doing this. So missable side content sucks. I hate that.
It sucks. But also, by avoiding missable side content, you get things like what you've brought up in the past, where a guy's like, I'll be waiting at midnight for you. And then he's like 5 months later, he's still waiting. And it doesn't work for the story. It doesn't work for the world. It's what do they call it? Immersion breaking, but otherwise you'd miss it, and that sucks. So they have to do that.
I think that what you should do rather is not take out all missable side content, but just make it very clear that it is missable side content.
Or maybe you missed it, you have to initiate it again from the beginning. The guy's not just going to wait there for 5 months.
Right.
You the next time you see him, he's like, well, I was waiting for you. Why weren't you there? And then you've got to reinitiate the whole thing instead of just whenever you have time, go there, and he'll still be waiting for you.
Yeah. But if you make it clear, like, hey, if we don't do this now, then you're going to miss your opportunity forever. Then you go, okay, I need to prioritize that over this other thing I'm doing. I'll go do that right now. If they make that clear, rather than like, hey, come do this thing. Okay, I'll come back. I got other things to do. And then like, whoops, you missed it. That always sucks.
Yeah.
Number 3, she says, if your friends are doing the side quests, you don't want to be the only one who didn't. You want both bragging rights and not feeling left out when you go back to school, right? The next day.
If you're in social circles like that, yeah, that is a big pull.
That's what I mean by missable side quests, Miss Money. She says, not just missable side quests. Literally, if you don't do any of the quests, any of the side quests now, you will have to restart the entire game in order to do the side quests. So that's what we mean by missable side quests, is that once you lose your opportunity to do it, then you can't do it unless you restart the game and go back and to that point.
Yeah.
So, okay. I think that's good for now.
All right, let's move on.
Let's move on to our last segment here, Community Stories. We just have one from Patreon. This comes from Chris Ewan. Beast. Says, in light of your recent experiences in Suikoden 2, I've got a question. When and how can storytelling via gameplay go horribly wrong? I'm guessing the primary way is that when the storytelling constantly forces you to feel like you lost, regardless of the performance, or your performance. FF4 does this a lot, but it doesn't annoy me in that game, as you usually win the combat, but then the cutscene afterwards reveals how your characters are set back anyway. This was a huge part of Donkey's review of Xenoblade Chronicles 2. It's like, you pulled the old win in the game, losing the cutscene trick. the oldest trick in the book. You
Yeah.
like beat the crap out of the boss, but then the boss beats you in the cutscene.
Yeah, somehow he still wins. Or he gets away still. He runs right past you.
It goes on to say other possibilities. My brother was royally cheesed off on his first Final Fantasy VII playthrough, given how much grinding he had done with Eris. The opening of Owlboy has your character failing at a number of tutorial tasks. Some people seem to respond really well to this, but it felt kind of forced and arbitrary to me, at least the way it was done. There's also Ego Raptor's complaints about Ocarina of Time, where assigning quests to the player character that don't align with the player's actual motivations annoy him. So I haven't seen that video. I probably should have watched it, Ego Raptor. So I'm not sure. I can't think of a single example myself in Ocarina of Time where what I wanted and what the assigned quest for the character were different somehow. But I guess I have to watch the video, so I can't really talk about that. I never felt that way playing Ocarina of Time, though. I can say that much. But it's a really good question. In light of your recent experience with Suikoden 2, so in Suikoden 2, they have a new large-scale battle system. In the first game, they had more or less a rock, paper, scissors minigame, where if I choose, like, charge, and the enemy chooses, I think it's magic, then they would beat me. But if I chose bow and they chose magic, I would beat them and fight. So it's like the three-way thing, right? So you choose one of the three, and their side will win that round, or your side will win that round, and you just whittle down their armies. I thought it was clever. I thought it was, there were certain characters you could recruit that would give you a hint if you sent them into the camp. They gave a hint about what their next attack might be, so you could get like a little bit of an advantage and win these battles. It's a little RNG, but like it's kind of cool. Like I liked it. In Suikoden 2, they have like a full out like tactical RPG, like strategy RPG tile based thing going on. Except it's incredibly limited in comparison to like Final Fantasy Tactics or Fire Emblem or something like that, or Shining Force. Like you have units that have a certain like number of tiles they can move in a single turn, right? If you're on foot, the character can make maybe like 4 or 5 tiles move forward. But and the maps are obviously larger, but if you have like a winged or a horsed character on horseback, they can go further in a single turn, right? In Suikoden 2, your units can only move one freaking tile in any direction on any turn. So it takes freaking forever to move around. There's like no strategy to it in terms of like, because you don't get to choose the placement of your units. They're just placed wherever. So it's like, anyways, it's really limited, and I don't like it as much. And I've gone through probably 6 or 7 of those battles, and I still have not had one where it's like the goal of it is to win the battle. It's only used as a method for telling the story. So you're going to either lose or win, but it's not by how you choose to fight. It's constituted by, reinforcements showed up, or our strategist hid his real plan from us the entire time, and then like reinforcements popped up out of nowhere and we had no idea it was coming. It's all basically just the story, but you're just clicking around for like 5 turns before you get to see the resolution of the battle. And to me, that's really frustrating, because it's like, what is the point of these? Just like play a cutscene. Just play a cutscene and show me how the battle happened, because I have no control over this.
Right.
The result's going to be the same no matter what I do. So, they used it in a really clever way that I won't spoil in order to make me appreciate a certain character more, because I had all these misgivings about the character, and I was like, I don't like this guy, and like, I think they want me to like him, but I don't. And then they used the battle in a way that I totally didn't expect for a storytelling purpose. And I was like, whoa, that character's amazing. I liked the character all of a sudden. But still, it's like 7, 8 battles, 6 battles, or whatever it is that I am into this game, and I'm just like, they're pointless. In terms of like, it's not really meant for me to play it. It's not a challenge. It's not, I don't win or lose. It's just, you just sit there and move guys around a little bit and wait for it to be over.
Yeah.
So I don't like the way it's handled in Suikoden 2. Are there any other examples like that you can think of from games you've played where the gameplay, telling the story through the gameplay, actually hurt the game?
Honestly, no. That's not something I've really thought about too much. I don't really have anything for that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think too.
I would usually say rule of thumb, as much as you can, you should try to tell the story through the gameplay.
Yeah.
But
But also have a lose state?
yeah,
So there's actual stakes in that, so you actually have to like do something to win?
yeah, that would be nice. But they've got to make, I don't know, they've got to make it interactable, but the story progresses. So yeah, it's like they may as well just show a cutscene in that sense. But it is a game, so I want it to be as interactive as possible. So
Sure.
I don't know. It's kind of interesting.
Oh,
Yakuza. People are saying Yakuza.
Oh, does this happen in Yakuza? I haven't played it. What do you guys mean?
We're talking about something else. Play for 5 seconds, watch 40 minutes of cutscenes.
Oh, right.
Different, I guess. Not really what I was thinking of. I've never played Yakuza before. Yeah.
Dude McGuy says
Was in the chat either.
Says losing in the cutscene after winning the battle is an example of ignoring the player input. So it's not storytelling through gameplay. It's ignoring the gameplay for the sake of the story. Yes, which is terrible. It's better to give the player control in an unwinnable situation. Yeah, so you have those battles in RPGs, right, where you can't win. Like the boss is way too high level and you're supposed to die. And then you waste all your Phoenix Downs and you waste all your potions trying to like survive the battle.
That's the word. Because it's like, is this one I'm supposed to lose or not? Because I'm not using my potions and stuff.
I still like that better than winning in the game, losing in the cutscene, though. Yeah. When I win in the game and I just wipe the floor with the boss and I just like kick its butt and then he just cuts up and goes bleh! And like uses some power and we're all down. It's just like F you game, like come on.
That's where if you're gonna have the player fight the battle that he's supposed to lose, you need to make sure the player loses that battle.
Well, right, because
it can't be off of you attacking the enemy that initiates the cutscene. It needs to be the enemy attacking you that initiates the you lost kind of thing. Otherwise, it just feels like you won, and then you find out later that you didn't win.
So Berserker Blitz 777, good comment there. Let me come back to that 1 second. But like at least in the example where you can't win, right? Because the enemy's too powerful. When you watch the cutscene after, you believe, oh, I could not have won because the bad guy's too powerful. So the story feels right. It's like, I guess, too powerful for me. So at least within the story beat, it works. But when you win in the game and lose in the cutscene, it's like, but I'm stronger than you. I just proved it through my actions. I'm stronger than you are. So like the boss no longer feels powerful. It feels arbitrary that they're trying to tell me he's powerful, but they don't show me he's powerful. In fact, what they show me is the exact opposite of what they're telling me. And so I don't believe them. And so I just get annoyed. But this comment from, where'd it go? Fetch. Oh, there it is. Berserker Blitz. Kingdom Hearts 1 did it right with Leon, where it depends on how you do the fight. So Leon's really hard when you first encounter him kind of early in the game. It's like a little tutorial thing, but you can beat him. But you just have to be really, really, really freaking good.
Right.
Kind of the same thing with the Riku fights on Destiny Island, actually.
Yeah.
If you engage with it and get better at it, like, and the entire story hinges on that, like trying to one up or be better than him.
Right.
So if you lose and you're bad, then it makes Riku feel more powerful than you. If you can beat him, then it's like, no, we're more equals. You know what I mean? The rivalry still works in that story either way.
Either way, yeah, totally.
And it'll be contextualized by your actions. So your input into the game will contextualize your interpretation of that game's story. And the rivalry between the characters will be shaped in your mind by how you performed in those fights on Destiny Island. That's freaking phenomenal. That's really well done. That's how you should do it.
That's true.
Anything else from people?
No, not really.
Okay.
People brought up Beatrix from Final Fantasy IX, how there's like you just have to last a certain amount of time.
Yep.
And it initiates the cutscene as opposed to, you can't just lose immediately. And it's like, oh, you were supposed to lose. It's like, no, you lost too quickly.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny.
Anyways, yeah, I mean, telling the story through the gameplay is important. But yeah, I mean, like, make sure that the player feels like they have some level of real participation. I think in the Suikoden 2 case, you just need to make a failure state. Just make some way of where you can actually lose, and you have to do this to win. So you have an objective and a failure state. That's kind of like the whole freaking crux of tactical RPGs to begin with. You have an objective, which is either kill the boss, rout the enemy, take this castle, like what do they call it? Where you like take your character and put them on that tile, and like you take it, or defend for a certain number of rounds, or whatever it is.
There's different like objectives.
You have a main objective, and then you have a fail state tied to that. If you don't do this, you lose. If you don't defend to this character within this many rounds, then you lose. If you don't kill the boss, you lose. Or if you lose your main character, if your main character dies, then it's game over. So as long as you have a failure state and an objective, it would be fine. But it just feels like Suikoden 2's battles don't have that. It's just like a click around and watch people fight each other until the game decides after 6 rounds that they're going to do the cutscene and resolve the conflict. Anyways, yeah, I think it's pretty good on that point.
I think so too.
And I think that's the end of our podcast. Thank you for watching, everyone. We appreciate your input in the chat. Appreciate you guys.
We were able to read a lot more comments than normal.
Yeah, it was good.
They were very...
Let's see. I am still, aside from this, on a little bit of a streaming hiatus because of the construction going on in the room behind me. So that set should be done this week sometime, so maybe I'll be able to come back for Final Fantasy Friday, next Friday, but I don't know for sure if they're going to be finished. They said they're going to be done by Wednesday, but I can never tell with these guys. So they may not be done. But if they are, Final Fantasy Friday will be back. Kaysen's working on a really cool video right now. What is your progress on that? Coming along pretty well? Because it's a really cool idea. I think you guys are going to like it a lot.
Yeah, so it's coming along. I've got the script almost completely written now. So
Nice. And I've got my Prince of Persia retrospective I'm working on, so good stuff on the way to look forward to. Thanks, everybody. Till next week, have a good one. Peace out.
Peace out.